pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Great, thank you very much. The first order of business is the approval of the agenda. A motion would be in order to approve the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Newton can second that.
Second by Art. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I don't see any general public with us. If there's anyone here that's not a member of the board or the Quarry Valley staff and you wish to speak, this would be your opportunity to do so. Hearing none, we'll move on to old business. Is there any old business to come before the board? New business. The first order before the board is the H48, the non-commingling of ballots for the March 2nd, 2021 election. So, Chris, did you want to explain that a little bit? This is an issue that we'll need to have a motion on.
Right. And so Betsy actually was going to join us, but I don't see her on the call. But so this is Betsy Westcott's request that I guess this year they are, and you also have the handout from the you know, I never get it right, but the Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns. And I think it's number 7, where if pursuant to its articles of agreement, a union school district or unified union school district is required to compile the ballots cast by voters in the member towns. Before counting the results, the legislative body may vote that the ballots for the 2020 annual meeting are not required to be compiled before counting. In such case, the ballots may be counted by each member town and the results reported to the school district clerk for determination of the official district-wide results. So what Betsy is asking for us to do this year for the board to give approval is that each town will count their ballots and then will report to Betsy, as opposed to driving the ballots over and then counting them at Poultney.
Are there any questions from anyone? If you recall, when we voted to join and form Quarry Valley, one of the tenets was that we would commingle ballots because we did not want, if one town, let's say, shouldn't pass the budget and another one should, that it, because we are operating as one, that we would count our ballots as one. Of course, this year is a unique year, and just in terms of safety and not having individuals move from one community to the next, it would only be for this one year. Next year, if we're in a different place, hopefully, we would go back to the original tenets of the agreements and commingle ballots. So are there any questions, concerns? We would need to have a motion on this to non-commingle of the ballots for the March 2nd, 2021 election only.
Kristen Ross, so moved.
Second?
I will
I'll
second
second.
that.
Second by Nate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Jim Mumford, did you just join us?
I did. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jim.
Just want to make sure. Thank you. The next piece of new business, there are a couple proposals on here, and you received those in your packet, but I'm going to just let Chris speak to those, and then we can discuss them after.
All right, thank you. So the Margolis-Healy proposal, this is something we discussed. There were some concerns moving forward with school security. There's some things that might be happening in the future, which just would require us to revisit our emergency operation plans, as well as the safety of our facilities, as well as our students and our staff. And so I reached out to Brooke Farrell Olson over at Slate Valley. I know that they work closely with Margolis Healy, which is a well-respected firm nationwide. They do specialize in school security and campus security, things along those lines. And I had a good conversation with Rob Evans, who is the Vermont director of this. And so he had actually put together a proposal for us where they would come in and do a security audit of our 5 schools, take a look at. I know if you look, the proposal, there are those 3 tiers. One is obviously look at the documentation, just make sure that, we have all our ducks in a row, that we are doing the proper training with our staff and with our students. We also, so that's the first circle, yes, the policies, procedures, and practices. The second circle, as they discuss, is the physical security systems, where they just revisit and look at, obviously, our, from our access control systems to security cameras, just all those things, all those. And the third one is just the response capacity, that if there was a situation in one of our schools, are we well equipped to handle that in terms of what is the response time and what does that look like? So they would provide us feedback along each of these areas, and then where State Valley has also moved to is a retainer. So they have Margolis Healy on a retainer for the 1 year, and that's just just provide services, feedback if there is a situation where we need assistance with implementation or programming, or say with a plan, or just any sort of thing, that they're there. So we'll not be on a per fee or per incident basis in terms of being charged. So we have them at our disposal. So I know there's a lot in there. I know it's pretty costly, but I know that just kind of projecting forward, that's we're working in New Jersey and in Illinois, where school safety is paramount. I think it's one where I think it'd be wise for us to take a look at and really just make sure that we, in all 5 of our schools, have things buttoned up, and we're doing everything we can to ensure the safety of both our students and our staff.
And if I can just jump in here, Kristen and I have been in some conferences with them over the last few years with Rob Evans and through the Vermont safety thing, and they're very thorough.
And they also do hold community forums. We had some parent forums back a few years ago as well. So they really are very, very good to work with.
Seth, you look like you have a question. No? You're muted. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, comments on the proposal that's in front of you?
I just realized I was on mute. No questions. I appreciate the point that they're also working with the Agency of Education and Public Safety in Vermont as well, so that it's consistent.
Okay.
This is Kristen Ross. I just have a question. It's kind of a different topic, but I just want to throw it out there that just because being talked about in the legislature, that kind of, I don't think this will go anywhere as a bill, but there's a bill to propose getting rid of SROs statewide, that schools will not be able to have them. So if they have any evaluation on whether SROs are, costs and benefits of having those, paid by or contracted with local school districts, that's something that would be, I don't know if they do that kind of research, or if they're more, it looks like it's more.
I think it's more building based, the way we are.
Yeah.
I will let you know that you all received the school board letter, and it did come out about the SRO, and I contacted Chris at like 11 o'clock at night, and by 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, he had a letter ready to go out to all our legislatures. So we have sent a letter from each Quarry Valley, Rutland Town, and Well Springs, as well as the GRCSU, supporting keeping the option local to employ SROs. If you read the bill, I mean, the data was, first of all, rather old. And secondly, it really didn't pertain to rural schools such as ours. There were some real anomalies in there that didn't really pertain to our schools. So we did send a letter and saying that that it should be at the local level. It's our option to employ. So we'll see what happens there. But we have been proactive on that measure.
And Lisa,
and we've also talked about here. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add one thing. I know that when we talk about the circles, the response capacity. So, Kristen, there would be a discussion with regard to if there, like I said, if there were an incident, what sort of response would we have? I know that it's always a concern. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I worked in inner city schools, I worked in rural schools, and I think that is a concern if you're more of a rural location. If there was an incident, that if you have a county sheriff's department or state police and the response time is 20, 25 minutes. Is that really suitable for an emergency incident? And so therefore, they may recommend, like I said, campus security or school resource officer to assist in a response plan. So I mean, that would be part of that overall discussion. So they really do take a look at every detail of, they vet out every detail of if you had an incident, what that would look like and where the holes are and what we could do to patch those things up to make sure that we really are on a day-to-day basis making sure that everyone's safe.
Okay, that's great. I just heard of this today and I was kind of concerned that local towns and districts aren't going to be able to make their own decisions about what's needed. And then, so that was one of my own personal thought, but then just remembering back some of our budget time conversations about sort of looking at those kind of expenses going forward, just looking at the, cost benefit analysis, that's all. So I just wanted to see if that would be part of what they could or should do.
And I think the other piece we've talked about with the SRO, and this is certainly something we can discuss down under D for committees, but we have discussed, expanding the role of the SRO when they're in our buildings to, have them be a little more interactive and, maybe do a program or something on something relevant to the building they're in. And so, I think that's something when we reorganize in March, that would be a good idea to have a committee that maybe addresses that, so that when we talk about the SRO, that we are using them to the fullest capacity and for the best benefit for our students and for our communities. But moving back to the proposal in front of you, are there any objections to the proposal, or would there be a motion to move forward with this?
I make a motion to move forward.
Seth will second that motion.
Okay, all of those in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any objections? All right, motion passes unanimously. The next is also a facility proposal that we have discussed. And this is something that Lewis, I believe, put together, contacted. And I don't see that Lewis has joined us this evening.
So Lewis texted me and said he's at his son's he's watching his son's basketball game right now. So
okay. Well, I'm doing
yeah.
dual duty here, trying to watch and do that. But understandable. So this is something else we had discussed, the facility proposal, and I'm hoping everybody had an opportunity to kind of read over that. Was there anything, Chris, maybe you wanted to add, or are there any questions perhaps board members have that could direct the conversation?
The only thing I would add is it's pretty self-explanatory, but I know Lewis reached out to Visbit, and this was the organization that they recommended. So they're pretty reputable. They do a very thorough job and would provide us with all the information that we need moving forward. So,
What information?
regarding just facilities, maintenance, repairs, putting together a plan, just really looking at just breaking down the details in terms of where the cost might be. There might be some hidden costs, and so they really help us evaluate building just based on age, just like look at the maintenance history. They look at it's the life of a certain major system, or like I say, a furnace or a boiler, and they really kind of break down what the projected cost might be.
And how much are the cost?
The total cost in the proposal, I do believe, was for all 5 schools, $19,900.
And so, Jim, it does have a breakdown per school.
I didn't see it. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, so I'll give you the quick lowdown. Basically, Polteny Elementary, Proctor Elementary, that was $3,200 each, and $4,500 each for Polteny Proctor High and West Rutland School.
And I think we kind of talked about this during budgeting. The hope is that having kind of going through this where I'm currently employed, and they break it down. What we're doing is to like a 5-year, 3-year, 2-year, what you need to do this year, which helps with budgeting. The other piece I think that would be helpful for us, since we have so many buildings, is if we have multiple projects, allowing us to look at, is it smart that in 3 years we're going to bond because we're going to do, X amount of projects at one time across all buildings or 3 buildings or whatever that is, rather than kind of, while we have great staff in our buildings, I think sometimes having an outside eye come in and look at that and analyze things that, just like, when you walk in your house every day, you don't always see everything, but somebody else comes in and sees something entirely different. So it just gives us kind of a new perspective, and the fact that they would tier it out for us, I think would be helpful for budgeting also. Are there any other questions?
I'm going to make a motion to support the proposal.
I'm going to support your motion again.
All right. Motion by Jim, seconded by Seth. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. So, I apologize sometimes. As you know, we will reorganize next month, and in preparation to do that, I thought it might be a good idea for members to start thinking about committees to which they would like to be assigned to. And particularly having just passed these 2 proposals, well, definitely, I think it would be advantageous to have the facilities committee that kind of we had last year, but really didn't go that much further. The other committee I thought perhaps we would like to think about would be the SRO, and as well as, and I'm not sure what we'd like to call this, I'm calling it course study for lack of a better term. But looking at middle school and high school, we've kind of talked about this, and looking across all 3 schools about what we have available and what we are duplicating, so that we can offer additional electives for our students, and as well as some upper level courses by sharing instructors like we're doing currently with West Rutland to Proctor. This has been a great, I don't know if we want to call it a pilot project. It's so much smoother. I hate to term it kind of like that. But but being able to do that, but in order to take that next step, I think we have to have a good idea of what is out there so we can make those kinds of decisions. I think that a committee like that would be also working with the admin team and, listening to them and getting ideas. So those are just some suggestions. And I think it's always good for people to think about. So when we come back in March and we kind of have this list of things that people want to raise their hands to sign up for committees. And that is that. The second piece, budget signs. I just wondered if you thought this year, since it's kind of an odd year, and who knows, we may get more people having our annual meeting this way than we do when we meet in person. We never really garner many people at in-person meetings. But do we want to purchase a couple signs for each voting place that says support Quarry Valley budget? Is that something the board's interested in? No? Okay.
No.
Okay.
That's just me.
Okay. All right. That's fine. It was just a suggestion. All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have the minutes of January 18th. A motion would be in order to approve those minutes.
I make a motion.
Motion by Jim, second.
I will second.
Second by Seth. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
passed unanimously. Approval of warrants. You had the warrants in your packet. Questions to warrants should be sent to Lewis. Motion would be in order to approve the warrants.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Nate.
Second.
Second by Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Superintendent's report, Chris.
Thanks, Lisa. I have a few items to kind of go over. So the past couple of weeks, we've been working on getting everything prepared for the town meeting and budget vote. The Quarry Valley Unified Union School District's information meeting is scheduled for February 23rd at 7 p.m. The link for this will be on in the annual reports, on the warning. It'll be on our website, the brochure. We have it also in the PEG TV budget presentation. But if anyone can't find it in any one of those places and still needs it, they can always reach out to myself or the building principals, Wendy Bixby. We'll be more than happy to provide that for anyone. The annual reports and brochures are finalized. They are at the printers. We should have them by, they're telling us the 17th. We are working on getting both the reports and brochures and the PEG TV presentation on the GRCSU website. I checked about an hour ago, still not on there. So I just need to check with our website designer to see what the holdup is, but we'll have those up there within the next day or two. As I said before, the budget presentation we finalized was a little bit different this year than it was last year, where we didn't go to PEG TV. We didn't sit in the studio. I know that some of our building principals were upset about that. They liked that 15 minutes of fame. But we kind of just shipped a little bit, and we relied on our instructional coaches. We used a technique that some of our teachers use, Screencastify. So we asked each of the building administrators, myself, Lewis, to individually record our presentations, and then we were able to kind of stitch them together. And so we have sent that off to PEG TV, but we will have a link to that presentation on our website as well. So, and hopefully on our school websites in addition to that. So it's pretty quick, it's very brief, but it does provide some good information. As we said before, all voting will take place via Australian ballots on March 2nd, and ballots will not be mailed this year. If you need an absentee ballot, please contact the town clerk. We had our third round of COVID testing on January 27th. We had 193 tests. We had 193 staff tests were administered. Out of that, we had 0 positive tests. I'm sorry, my dog is bothering right now, so I apologize. I'm trying to. So sorry, I got 2 things going on here. Just 1 second.
I'm going to tell you that would be karma for Chris because he picked on me about my dog in a prior meeting.
My dog doesn't bark. It just comes in and just starts nudging and just knocking the laptop over. So I had to get my daughter to get my dog outside. I apologize. So COVID updates. We have 16 positive cases. Across, last week was not necessarily, actually the past couple of weeks weren't a really good week for us. We anticipated that. So that's despite that, the state has been seeing its numbers decline, while in Rutland County and Bennington counties, the cases have been on the increasing. So we anticipated that we would have some positive cases within our communities, and we were right. And I think now we've had a positive case in each one of our schools in the Quarry Valley. But the one thing I've been saying is that schools are not spreaders. That while these the individuals have contracted this outside of the school, and because of the safety measures and the mitigation strategies and protocols we have in place, we have limited the amount of spread within our schools. So I want to continue to thank our building administrators, our staff, and our school nurses for doing all the great things, and as well as for the students as well, following it, doing everything they need to be doing on a daily basis. So we are currently in the middle of February break. We are providing meals to families that requested it. We will. Right now, our plan is to return to in-person learning on Monday, the 22nd. And I say that as right now, it says it is only Monday. We do have, 5 or 6 days left to go, but we anticipate everything, smooth sailing and return to in-person on Monday. So what else we have? Lisa Madison and myself have been meeting with each of the Quarry Valley administrators for mid-year meetings where we reviewed goals, data, and expectations for the remainder of the year. We're also starting to look at what next year might look like. So, when we have that information, we'll provide that to you. We don't know, and that might not be till July or August, the way we're going. But as soon as we know what the next year's going to look like, we will provide you with that. Winter sports have begun. All Quarry Valley schools, coaches, athletic directors, and building administrators have ensured that all safety, health measures, protocols are in place and are being closely adhered to. We did have an incident the other night, but we because of the strategies and we were able to kind of limit the amount of close contact. So we were very fortunate with that. And lastly, legislative updates. I did include a copy of the VSBA education legislative report, kind of covering the first couple weeks of the legislative session. It's just some light reading for you. So you want to take a look at that. There is a lot in there, but it's just, it's pretty interesting. Kind of see what's coming across, the House and the Senate's desk. So, thank you.
All right, any questions for Chris? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to principal's report. We'll start with Joe.
Good evening, everybody. You guys have my written report. We are on break, which is good. We did have our first incident over the weekend. So it's kind of nice that we are on break and gives everyone a little break. There's just one thing I forgot because we didn't really do a report last month, and I found it sitting on my desk today. Forgot to put it in the report, but I just wanted to reach out. We had 5 students that were student in the marking period at Stafford Tech Center for the term 2. And there was Shelby Olden, Liam Hill, Lucas Van Nostrum, Kylie Constantine, and Tyler Lynch. So, just our kids are up there and they're doing well up there as well. But, we feels like we just got back from Christmas break, but it's been a long month and a half going through here. But hopefully the weather breaks and we can start getting outside again. But we're doing really well.
Okay, any questions for Joe? Hearing none. Thank you, Joe.
Oh, one more thing too. I'm beginning to become a YouTube expert here. I've got to pull a kid in next week to ask me how to with a huddle program for the basketball games, trying to figure out YouTube. I've never done that before, so I'm learning that as well. I think I'm going to pull a kid in next week and show me how to do it the right way.
Well, they look good on everybody's site, so it's a learning curve, but it's certainly nice to see everybody, see the kids and listen to those balls thumping in the gyms. There's no doubt about that. So, all right, thank you. Kristen.
Good evening, everybody. Just want to piggyback on what Joe said. I pulled a student in to help me with Screencastify, so you can always learn something new, and it was great being taught by a student. There's a lot of information in my written report, and as you can see from the pictures, there's still a lot of learning going on, and kids and teachers are finding very creative ways to do things this year. The Valentine Project was a prime example. Instead of making Valentines for kids in their classrooms, they are sending the Valentines to schools all over the country. So it was really neat listening to different facts from different schools in other states. And I think the students have really enjoyed that. I did want to thank my staff who has stepped up and covered duties and covered additional classes when we're down. It means a lot, and they've gone above and beyond, and I really appreciate that. I'd also like to give a shout out to Mr. Harrington's 4th and 5th grade. They are relocated in the library classroom, and it's really interesting to see the learning that's going on and kind of how it's in its own little hub, even though it's in the center of the school. So they're doing a great job. Last thing, we have 7 students who will be returning to in-person learning. So that will bring us down to 22 who are remote learners. That's all.
Great. Any questions for Kristen?
I hit my hand, broke something in there.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Christy.
All right, good evening. Thank you for letting me go. I'm going to jump off soon, watch my daughter play basketball as well. They're playing against Otter Valley tonight. Let's see. So kind of like Kristen, we've done something different for Valentine's Day. We did a collection for the Humane Society, so that was really nice. We had students bring in, I contacted them, they gave us a list of things that they're in need of. So we have at least 6 boxes of things to bring over to the Humane Society this week. Our students have been doing a lot of mid-year assessments. I know it's kind of tough to do this in the middle of a pandemic. However, it's really important that we see what learning is happening and the growth that they've made since the fall. Let's see. You can see my written report. 3rd and 4th grade gave some highlights, things that's happening in art class. I've been doing all the mid-years with teachers. We did not require them to do a formal write-up for their mid-years. However, we thought as an admin team, it was really important just to get their perspective. How are things going? What are their goals for the remainder of the year? So we've all been doing that across the SU, meeting with our teachers. Again, working really hard with the COVID procedures. I want to thank my custodial staff. They are going above and beyond every day and every weekend, making sure our rooms are clean and ready to go. So definitely a big shout out to custodial staff. We're down 1 between the elementary school and the high school, and everybody has really stepped up to help out one another. Any questions?
No, don't hear any. Guess you're free to go to the basketball game in the living room.
To my living room.
Thank you. Joanne.
Thank you, Lisa. So, yay. The boys basketball team on Friday night. Sorry, Jay. I was really excited about that because I know one of our students was hoping to reach his goal of 1,000 points, which that happened. I was really excited about that. We have also joined the other schools that have been able to implement the Huddle live stream platform. And I'm hoping that that is happening tonight. We've had a little bit of fits and starts with that because we ordered it a little bit late, but I'm hoping that's happening tonight. So yeah, good for us. Yeah, I would agree with Christy that our custodial staff has stepped up to the plate because we've had somebody that has not been able to, join us over the last couple of weeks. And I think the schools continue to have high standards related to cleanliness, and especially as it relates to the sports teams, with practices and things like that. So I'm really excited about that. We have a partnership and leadership program, and I'm really excited about the fact that our students have really responded positively to drop everything and read. The staff was concerned that maybe they would have some behavioral issues or staff that would not be engaged in the learning, but that has not been the case. We've been talking about different genres of books, and the kids have really stepped up and have responded well to that. I am very excited about the governor's opening up of the music department. And I think when, we think about the performances that we're used to seeing, it's not just going to be athletics now. It's going to be about music. It's going to be about performances. And I look forward to talking to my staff coming back after the vacation to see about ways in which we can show parents that we continue to have a high level of, the arts that we love to focus on. So that's all I have tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So we did stream the boys' game tonight. It's not on the huddle, but Mr. Crossman streamed it live on Facebook. So it was really the same. You can't tell the difference. But I will say, just before Jay goes, that, yeah, since all three of the schools have this, I think it does give us great opportunities for music, for art, to showcase our other students, or some of the same students that are athletes as well. But it certainly opens up some great opportunities for us. So thank you, Joanne. And Jay.
Well, good evening, everybody. I have a lot of similar information. We did have, as Superintendent Sell mentioned, we had a couple of cases at West Rutland just last week, which was, we knew our time was coming. I want to thank all the staff and our custodians for helping us get through this. There was a lot of behind the scenes. Something that probably hasn't been mentioned is it took us about 5 to 5.5 hours to process each case. By the time you do everything, this is an enormous amount of time, and it puts everything pretty much on standstill. And our office staff, our nurse Sue Brewster, and Chris and Lisa Madison's guidance was wonderful, along with the support of the staff and the community. Several things that I wanted to showcase here. We just celebrated our Student of the Quarter awards, and we were able to announce our salutatorian and valedictorian. Our valedictorian is Mallory McGinnis, and our salutatorian is Mac Perry. So we congratulate those two. We were able to give awards throughout the middle school and high school, and celebrate our students at Stafford Tech also. So that was wonderful. I made mention in my report that our MAPS testing mid-year work on Fontes Vanel also has been completed, and we saw some really nice gains across the board, and we're going to spend a little bit more time in our data meetings in early March looking at that. It's been a real emphasis of mine to not only collect the data, but how are we using it. And I think, as we all have said, it's been a pretty tough year. But to see the smiling faces of my teachers, I actually had a teacher run in with several pieces of paper in her hand 2 weeks ago and say, "You've got to see the amount of growth that my students have made in X grade." And we saw that right across the board. So kids are very resilient, and I was really happy to see that work, that hard work pay off. I put a lot of other information in my report, but I do want to highlight that our new furnace, courtesy of the Quarry Valley Board, is up and running. It was an enormous amount of work. I can't help the vendor enough. We have been up and running now for about a week. It took about 2 weeks to get this process, old one removed, new one in, getting them online. As a side note, the new one is much more efficient. We have 2 furnaces about the size of Volkswagens in our basement, and the new one is the primary, and it is definitely much more efficient than the old furnace. So we really hope that it will help our school be a little bit more energy efficient, and we're doing some work to make sure that this one has longevity as it should have. So thank you again to the board for that. It was really nice. And before the cold weather really sets in, there is so much good going on at West Rutland School. I'm really proud of what we're doing, but I'll let my report speak for itself. Is there any other questions or any questions I can answer for the board tonight?
Don't hear any questions, but it's exciting to hear from our administrators at every meeting about the positives that are happening in our buildings. And, our schools, as we talked about before, are not spreaders. And a great deal of that goes to our community, to our students for following and adhering to the guidance, as well as our staff for, our custodial staff is doing an amazing job. So big thanks to those, and thank you to our teachers and support staff for stepping up, as Kristen said, and helping out. These are unique times, and we're pleased to see that everyone is just is helping and putting the time and effort in. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Moving on to personnel, I don't have any contracts in my packet. Chris, did you have anything?
We just have the support staff and extracurricular. So it's 2 custodians on an hourly, Tyler Pope and Jacob DeBonis at Pulteney High School at $12 an hour. And then for extracurricular, we have Amanda Posh. It looks like a couple just Robin Nix for Pulteney High School Homework Club at $15 an hour. Joanna Trout, virtual high school instructor, $30 an hour. Carol Ryan, looks like Proctor High School 5th, 6th grade boys basketball coach, $546. Megan Doherty and Lauren Loisel at mentor stipend at $750 each.
Okay.
And if I can just add those 2, the after school program homework club, that's paid through a grant as well, through the BSAC Gear Up grant. So we have to pay them, and then we get reimbursed at the end of the year from BSAC.
I make a motion.
Joe, how is that working this year for homework club?
We didn't do it the first half of the year, so we have our cafeteria set up as a classroom, so they're there for an hour after school if kids need the help, and it just gives the kids a place to go. So
okay, thank you.
All right, so motion would be in order for the 2 support staff and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 extracurricular as read by Chris.
Motion.
Motion by Jim, second.
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. For resignation, we do not have resignation of staff, but we have the resignation of 2 board members, Gail Curtis from the Proctor board contingency, I guess, and Sarah Getcha from the West Rutland. So both of those are on the ballots for the remainder of their terms to be voted on town meeting. So a motion would be in order to accept their resignations from the board with regret.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Nate, second.
Seth will
I'll
second.
second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion passes. I'm guessing since Lewis isn't here, we can skip over the budget presentation.
I think that was just if anyone had any questions. So
Okay. Are there any questions about the budget presentation? Lewis always does an amazing job for us at the annual meeting. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
All right, so the annual meeting, informational meeting, will be February 23rd, and everyone should receive that sign-in information tomorrow night. You should receive the meeting information for the carousel meeting.
Lisa, this is Kristen. Can you just give me a quick, what is that about again? Sorry.
The carousel meeting?
Yeah, tomorrow.
That is for the ratification of the master contract.
Okay. So it's the ratification part. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Are there any future agenda items you'd like to see on the March agenda? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to policies. The policy committee has been working and reading through and going through policies. There are 3 policies before you for approval. Are there any questions about any of the policies that were presented? Kristen Whitman's a member of the policy committee, so maybe she or Chris Sell could address that.
Yeah, I just have one little nitpicky question. Just reading on the it was the one about I think the electronic communications between employees and students. There was a point in there saying, but I think it's between 10 p.m. and 6 p.m. there shouldn't be correspondence. If an email response that has no other problems with it other than it happened at something like midnight, whether it originates from student or from employee, is that going to be a problem? I'm apologizing if I missed a nuance. That the nuance is covered, so it's not going to be there. I just don't want us to.
So that was a pretty lengthy conversation in committee, and the difficulty, I guess I would say, and then Kristen Whitman or Chris Salkin, but we're dealing with pre-K to high school, and so we're trying to mesh these policies together to kind of encompass a lot. And we had a lot of conversations that focus more kind of on the high school student-teacher relationship, I think, and there were a lot of different times put out there, a lot of conversations back and forth, and that was kind of just the general consensus that there's a time where communication doesn't need to be taking place. Teachers need to have their space and students as well. And so those were kind of the times, but all out, Kristen Whitman or Chris, if you have something else.
I mean, I guess what I would say, Seth, is, that was definitely an area where we spoke at length. I had some concern about that. I guess my worry was that just it would get in the way of teachers doing what they needed to do when they could do it. But I definitely understand what Lisa's saying too about setting boundaries, and that we need to do that for students who are in the adolescent age. I guess I honestly worry about like some sort of grievance, or just feeling like you can't do what, that teachers might feel like that's inhibiting their ability to do their job. So I think it is an area of concern, but we wanted to bring it to you all.
Yeah, and then I guess I wonder, was there any conversation? I think Greg left. He was on the meeting for a little while, but I wonder if there's even some tech controls that could be put in place. For example, can there be limitations on the emails in certain regards so they literally don't send between the hours of 10 and 6 p.m. With some certain rules around them, right? trying to cover all that, right? Like the fact that in today's society, and I think parents, right? Like me as a parent, if it was midnight on Friday night and my child had a concern that came up and the result of that was, I think we should probably email your teacher. If we're awake and able to do that, I wouldn't think anything about sending that email at that time while it's fresh in the mind, never having any expectation for a teacher or anything like that to respond at an unreasonable time too, right? But it's we are in an instant gratification sort of society these days. And I think that if somebody has a thought about something that legitimately needs to have some correspondence to, the reality is that sometimes midnight thoughts pop into our head and an email might be sent. I think that could be possible from employees and students as well.
Steph, that's a good point. I wonder if there's something like, it wouldn't inhibit somebody from sending it, but it might not get receipt. Like you could do it when you needed to do it, but then it wouldn't get sent. There'd be some, yeah.
Just thinking out loud.
Yeah, I mean, there are a million different hypotheticals, and it's very difficult when you're establishing policy. So you want to have a blanket, statement. And we did talk about this at length, and there's nothing magical about the 10 p.m. because 9:59 and 10 p.m. or 10:01, you're splitting hairs. But I think really what it was down to is more the context of the communication as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's one where it's good practice that we are asking people just to limit communication with their students at a certain time. It's just it's not appropriate. But obviously if it's an emergency situation, then it can be vetted out and kind of work through that way. But I just having done this in many different districts and in many different places where obviously there's a difference between a Tuesday night when a test coming up, so 10:30 I have a quick question about a test or a project, as opposed to a Friday or a Saturday night where hey, how's your weekend going? There's big difference between those types of communication that are between a student and a staff member, and I think that's where we really have to just encourage like you said, between the hours of 10 and 6, we really shouldn't be communicating with anyone. And I do know that from a teacher's perspective too, they also want to look at they want to shut down too. There's a certain time where they're not at the beck and call of a student or a parent. So it's like at 9:30 at night or 10:30 at night, they're not expecting to have to return an email or respond to an email. They have a life as well. So there is that balance with that.
Yeah, that's no problem. I appreciate definitely. Clearly, you guys spent a lot of time thinking about it and covered all this. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't a situation where somebody might get punished for what would actually be considered probably good communication just because it happened at outside of these hours with no other problems. So I think you guys did a great job of explaining it, so I'm okay.
This is Kristen Ross. The other thing is it says between employee and student, which I assume is just that. Whereas if a parent has a concern, even on behalf of the student, a parent could send an email with no expectation that the instructor or teacher or staff member would get back to them right away. But at least that's not, it doesn't say employee, student / parent. It just says employee and student. So I'm assuming parents, if communication needed to be had. And the other thing I'll point out, which will, age me, but probably most of us, is I never once pre-K through 12 ever emailed a teacher and got through it just fine. There was no email. So you can usually wait. So just putting that out there.
Like Kristen, those are good points. I think this is in place for, it's not really except for homework help. As a student, I got through just fine. Well, relatively fine. But I think it's one where we're really looking at the situations where the lines are blurred, where it's just, not necessarily an email, but like on an Instagram or a Snapchat or something else where we really shouldn't be communicating with, the employees and students should not be communicating with one another in an informal manner. And I think that's where it's more of a blanket statement here. And it is between employee and student, because if a parent wishes to reach out with a question, there is no expectation that at 10:30 night that a teacher will have to respond. They can get to it the next day. but it really is just trying to just establish professional relationships on both sides that students and staff understand. And we do. I say 99.9% of our students and our staff understand this. So it's more just a blanket protection, like, hey, this is just good practice, just something to think about as you move throughout your day.
Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns about the 3 policies? A motion would be in order to approve the 3 policies.
I make a motion.
Motion by Jim, second.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Nate. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
So, Lisa, this is the first read for these 3. So this will come back around the next board meeting as well for these.
Oh, so we don't need a motion this evening?
Right. These are just the
I'm
first
sorry.
3. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, sorry. I think we look at these so many times. I think we're ready to
I know.
approve them. My
It does get
apologies.
confusing.
Okay. Is there anything else anyone has to come before the board? If not, we do need just a few moments of your time in executive session to discuss negotiations.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Could we have a motion at 6:59 to go into executive session for negotiations?
That's what I said.
Okay. Second?
I'll second it.
Second by Nate, and we can excuse all administration. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the remainder of your holiday.